Happy Friday, ladies. It's Charli here. I have tried 2 different places to do this live this morning, and I'm now, because of people in the house, I've come into the front garden in the hope that I can do one of my Charlie's chats and talk to you. I wanted to talk to you today about self-concern and all of those thoughts that we have about body image and what we look like. And I've had quite a few people, good morning Nikki, good morning Joe, I've had quite a few people tell me this week that they are experiencing a lot of heavy thinking around their weight, about what they think they look like, and of course we're all at home, and there's food around and we're kind of out of our routine. Some of us, like not all of us, are at home. I know Joe's a nurse who's watching. So I just wanted to speak to that today, because when we get into our head, we have a lot of self-concern about what we think we look like. But one of the things I wanted to just speak to was when we're under stress, like when we're in stress, in a stressful situation, which some of us are finding, like being at home quite stressful, or we're out of our kind of routine, which we believe keeps us safe. Good morning Nikki, in cavemen days, sorry, there's a see, I've come to the front garden to try and talk to you because it's so, everywhere else I tried there was people there, and now I'm like, I've got flies everywhere. In olden days, cavemen times, we used to have to flee from danger. And when we fled from danger, we have this sort of survival thing that kicks in, the flight or fright response. Part of that is to take care of our body. So under stress, what we do, and because we're now living in like this society, we still internalize it and think about our body. But now what's happening is people go, I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm old, or whatever kind of form it takes for you. And so then we start ruminating about what we look like, about the food that we're eating. I know, I tell you a little story about me, that for many, many, many years, because I had quite a stressful thing happen to me when I was 21, it was quite traumatic, my mind went to what I looked like, and I started kind of obsessing about weight and what I should put in my mouth, and I would think all the time, be like this constant narration of what to eat, when to eat, and it just kind of went on all the time. But partly when we're under stress, it's because naturally and instinctively we want to look after our bodies. What we don't know is that we then turn that into kind of obsessive thinking, and the more we pay attention to those thoughts, of course the more they come round. They're like on a loop. That's part of neuroscience. It's part of neuroplasticity. It's how we create our experience through our thinking. And I had a kind of realization one day where, like, one of the days when post my father dying, I'd gotten down to like 6 stone or something stupid. That wasn't through trying, it was through stress. And I had an operation as well. And I realized I'm not any different. I don't feel any different, even though I'm quote unquote thin. And what it said on the scales was, I guess it would be pleasing to some people, basically anorexic. I wasn't happy, and that was a big moment for me, because I thought I've spent years and years and years trying to get to a certain weight, an arbitrary weight I'd made up in my mind. And when I got there, I felt exactly the same. I felt unhappy, I felt sad, I felt disconnected. I was still self-obsessed about my weight. I was still self-concerned, and I realised in that moment, this thinking has got nothing to do with my weight. My weight, my body, my gravitational pull towards this earth is no reflection of who I am, and the unhappiness was coming from something else. It wasn't coming from my body shape. It was coming from my thinking. So if even I could be still, like, unhappy and unsettled, I was still in my head. Now I look back, I can see, oh, you were really in your head. In that moment, I realised it was about something else, something much deeper. And so what I've learned over the last few years is exactly that, is exactly how and why we get into that state of self-concern, of getting into that state of heavy thinking, of Groundhog Day, of constant heaviness around what we look like, what we think we look like. And that is why it's my mission to help people have a much, much, much easier experience of it and be able to eat what you want, when you want, and not give a flying fuck about it. And actually, when that happens and you have no thinking about what you're eating and what you look like, of course the weight falls off because you're not under stress. When we're under stress, we activate the stress response, which leads to lots of inflammation, lots of your body retaining fluid. All of that is just to protect you. Every single thing that's happening is to protect you. And when we understand that on an endocrine level and a sort of physiological level, it makes sense. And once you understand how your mind works, it also makes it a lot easier. And that is what I teach in my 8-week program. So that's why I've come on to just speak to you about that, because a lot of people have been messaging me saying they're really in their heads, they're really worried about food, they're really worried about their weight. And, you know, just an example of how we live in our thinking is someone said, you know, I was fine, I was doing really well, and then I stood on the scales, and then I hated myself. And that just shows, you know, that's a really good example of how we're fine one minute, and then we step on the scales and we see a number, and in that moment we have a thought, well, that number's not the number I want it to be. So then we go into our heads, that's not good enough, and I should do better, and there's something wrong with me, what's wrong with me? Those are going to be your repetitive thoughts. That's why in a moment, in one moment, you can have a new thought and you can have a change of heart, because in that one moment, that person who was feeling fine stepped on the scale and then suddenly wasn't. It took a moment, and that means it can take a moment to have a new thought and see something else, see the truth, see how amazing you all are actually at your core. So that's me, surrounded by flies, signing off this Friday. I hope you have a lovely day, whatever you're doing, and I'll talk to you soon. Ciao.